Hi, I'm Wayne Tuttle, and welcome to Chasing Legends. Welcome back to Chasing Legends. I'm Wayne Tuttle, once again your host. I'm sorry, but here we go. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, leave a comment if you want to leave a comment. Check out our t-shirts in the About section. Legend of the Superstition Mountains and Dutch Hunter Rendezvous, black, gray, short sleeve, long sleeve. I got that down like nobody else's business, and Trevor was so confident he had it. Okay, so in this week we're going to go into, this is a question I'm asked quite frequently. It's a question I hear asked of a lot of different Dutch hunters and stuff. It's something that's always asked, and I got a time to reflect on it, laying around doing nothing, periods of time, going, people ask me this, but you always give them this short answer, and there's always the kind of the canned answer, right? Do you ever have any regrets? That's a big loaded question for anyone in life. Do you ever have any regrets? Well, yeah, of course there's some regrets, Got caught a few times. But, when your parents busted you for smoking or drinking or something, yeah, well, you got regrets. Yeah, I could have been smarter a lot of times in life. Could have known better in life. But I know they all generally mean Dutch hunting. And usually the answer is no, I wouldn't change my life. But I wanted to give it more serious thought. Because I get asked that. And the answer is usually, no, I wouldn't change anything. But it is true you wouldn't want to change anything. And part of the reason of this is anything you start to change probably changes other events around it. And I realized coming on close to 50 years in the mountains myself, I kind of look back at it and realize, yeah, but, why would I want to change something? I wouldn't change. There's a 10-year period where Randy Wright and I spent so much time in the mountains. And there were periods where every 2 weeks we were back in the mountains. And between that time, if we weren't emailing, talking to each other, we'd be in the mountains with someone else. And there was so much time that we were in and out. And then Greg Davis is going through the archives. What more would I want? I wouldn't have wanted less. Wouldn't have wanted more. I kind of look back and say, yeah, well, I could have spent more time at home maybe. My kids seem to have turned out pretty damn good, in the top 5% of their classes. Sarah's the top 1%. Well, she's the top of the class. Their education, everything, they seem to have done well. None of them ever been in trouble. They're all great kids going to college on scholarship. What else am I going to ask for? So we seem to have done well, and I think it's a balance. My kids did spend time in the mountains with me, but I didn't drag them in the mountains and force them into the mountains. And Trevor's still very interested and likes spending time in the mountains. The other two, not so much. But again, we did take trips and go up into the mountains. Tyler's never, I don't think, ever spent time in the night in the mountains, but Sarah and Trevor have. So when you see those multiple nights that my children have and all, if they get something out, it's fine. It's not for everyone. But I'm not going to have regrets with that of having not done as much or whatever they've learned. Trevor, a very unusual position of, after 20 years of spending time around me, most of his life has been growing up around this and the people. And he's going to be a very special place here in 20 or 30 years when he's reflecting on the fact of all the people he knew and he grew up around knowing. And he can look through the pictures. And I think it just throws him off. He didn't remember. I sent him a picture the other day of him with the hieroglyphic stone, the petroglyph stone. That was at the Mormon temple, and he's standing next to it. And Trevor has no recollection of ever being there or being in that picture, but there he is standing there. And there's pictures of him with Tom Collenborn and Clay Wurst and, with so many other Dutch hunters, Rick Gwynn, and people who are no longer with us. So you don't have regrets because you go, no, this is all kind of works its way in. The regrets I would have a little, and I don't know how I could have changed it, was I know Randy Wright and I wanted to work with Mitch Waite, and Mitch Waite had some very interesting things in Fish Creek and on Horse Mesa, and he wanted to come get us out there. He kind of switched his gears and moved away from the mountains after that, But we never had the time. It was because we were spending so much time in and around the mountains. I know Randy went out in the area. I know he spent some time at Bronco Butte and down in Fish Creek, and then we spent a little time in Fish Creek, and then the TV show and since then, but it's just we didn't have the time, and I feel kind of bad because I really like Mitch. I got to talk to Mitch. We went back and forth. Same with Jim Hatt. Jim Hatt and I spoke on the phone. We emailed. We did a lot of things back and forth, but we didn't really spend any times ever went in the mountains or spent much time in the mountains together. And I know Salvador and a number of other people. Randy spent time in the mountains with Jim Hatt on a couple different occasions. But it just didn't work, and I understand that. Then there was the other thing of like, I don't know, I had to have crossed paths with Bob Ward and just not recall it because he was in and around the mountains and definitely the southern end and the Peralta Trailhead in that area of the mountains and Peralta Road. I spent so much time in that area, it just seems impossible we wouldn't have crossed paths. But I was a kid, and I probably was just avoiding anyone like Bob Ward. Chuck Crawford, I just didn't like the look or feel of him. Randy spent some time with him and just thought he was nuts, which to me was another thing of like, oh, stay out of there. I can have the regret, I did have and make a slight connection with Michael Bilbrey. It really never went anywhere, and if I would have been more pushy to get somewhere, it probably would have pushed him away. And it was just something I was like, between Jim Hatt and I, for different reasons, we were trying to kind of get in touch with him. And, my idea was to get him to come to the rendezvous anonymously. I wanted him to experience that, and if he felt comfortable enough to tell his story. And then tell the people around there, let's be totally respectful and welcome this guy in to tell his story one time. Let's get it one time from him, the man himself, okay? And I could never work that. He showed very slight interest. And it was kind of like putting that trust. And Jim and I got very, probably way over too optimistic about it. But I regret that I didn't get that accomplished. But there's kind of things like that. Is where's the regret at? And again, I regret, do you regret not staying in touch with all the friends that you knew at one time, but then you run into them? You develop such diverse things. When Randy and Wright and I were done with our time in the mountains, I kind of knew it. There was a time on Black Mesa, and I think he would agree. I kind of knew that was a transitional place in his life. I'm not there to be his life or his guidance counselor or anything. And there was some dark times for him and very personal stuff. And we worked with each other and we did what we could. And to this day, we still talk and we text and go back and forth and stuff. And I hope there's one trip left in us. One trip, solid trip for just the two of us. Because I have a feeling, after all the time Randy and I spent, all the trips, I don't think there was ever a crossword or anything between us that was ever in an anger or any issue. And I think we would literally be right back to that place, the same place. I don't have any regrets about any of it because I never had a chance to explore the mountains or spend any time, and I probably never will with my younger brothers, Andrew, Kevin, and Kenny. Sorry, Ken. But I probably will never really get to spend that time in the mountains with my brothers. Because of that, Randy was kind of that, not even knowing it at the time, surrogate little brother. So since I didn't have that, Randy was that person to me. He was the younger brother I got to spend time. I envy Jesse so much that he has a brother to spend time in the mountains with at times. And I didn't have that. Randy was that person without me knowing it or ever expecting it, or maybe I was searching for it and that I found that. But he filled that role for me for someone because he was definitely newbie when we first went in, but he was 110% in going in, and we had so much fun and enjoyed our time, and we had great experiences, and he learned so much, leaps and bounds, not just because of me, just because of just how much he wanted to learn. And I can just remember all the time in the mountains and going through archives and sharing material and photographs. I mean, we would go out and, always on our trips was you take pictures of me, I'll take pictures of you, and then we'll just swap everything. But we spent so much time. So people say to me, where are there regrets? And it's like, I don't know how much more time I could have spent. There was times I had to take breaks from the mountains because of how much time I spent, or certain things happen in your life. And, I definitely was still spending quite a bit of time around the mountains and in and out of the mountains. And definitely Randy and I got locked into the rendezvous, which continues somehow in a weird, strange way, my partnership with Randy, though he's not really involved anymore. So where are the regrets? And I can look back and say, it puts stress. Occasionally there can be arguments about the amount of time you spend in the mountains and certain things, but someone doesn't understand it. But then eventually I think all the Dutch hunter widows, which is what Dutch hunters' wives are known as do get it. We have that time that we're going to spend in the mountains, and it's not a make or break. It's just kind of, we have to do that. And I don't know if it's always chasing treasure, it's Coronado's children, or what it is. But there's something in us, DNA, genetic-wise, we need that stuff. We'd find something along that. And I have other interests. I have a lot of other interests in things I've done in my life. And they particularly go very diverse directions. I'm always interested in learning new things and stuff. But the superstitions were always a special certain thing. And from that moment in 73, 74, when it first connected to me, whatever it was, fit that plug, fit that socket. From that moment moving forward, it was always there. So there's never I can recognize a single regret. I can say, yeah, I wish I would have gotten to, spend more time with this person. But I cherished the time I did. Yeah, I wish there was more time with Rick Gwynn and Tom Collenborn and Dan Hopper and Ron Eagle and, Dave Chase. I wish all these guys, I wish I had more time with them. But that's not a regret. It's just I spent the time that I could, and I remember those moments when we would walk up and get to sit down and talk, and I remember the private conversations and when we'd have those, so I don't regret those things because I don't know how I would have had that much more time. I still like to kind of stay in touch and get a hold of people. And you can miss someone and say, but I'm not going to regret that not sitting down. Another individual, Baker Looney from Glenn McGill's crew, was there, and everybody invited him in at the rendezvous. And I was a huge Killer Mountains fan, got him to sign my book, and we talked. And we had a very short time we talked together, and I had a hard time getting him in a quiet moment where we could just sit and talk. And I had particular questions, but I didn't want to be like a reporter. I didn't want to be an interview. I wanted to be able to talk to the man. And I can't regret not talking to him because there was so many people around, so much going on. I never really had the opportunity to get him one-on-one where we could sit and have 10, 15 minutes together. So looking at it all, there's not really regrets. I don't think there's been really bad experiences with the mountains. There are bad people involved in the mountains. There are people that you wish you hadn't gotten involved with sometimes. But it's a good learning experience all the same. So what I would say is, like, coming around to it where I would say, yeah, we give a canned answer. There aren't really regrets. So it is a real true statement that we all make. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you learned something from this. It caused you maybe to reflect on life, your regrets or not regrets. Like I said, please subscribe. Go down, leave a comment, hit the notification bell. Check us out on Fridays. We're going to, last Friday, this Friday, we're going to be doing the live, Facebook Live at 4 p.m. Arizona time. So catch us there. But until the next time we see each other, I'm Wayne Tuttle. You're not. And this was Chasing Legends. Take care.